what I've done is I bought I think it's a plaster mixing tub. I bought it years ago, and I use that to clean all of my parts in. What I use to clean my parts with at first is just straight old gasoline. I've just experienced it. It's the best cleaner in the world. It breaks down the oil and the grease quickest. It's easy to work with. It used to be affordable. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but that's what I use. I know that other guys out there will use mineral spirits. I definitely would love to do that because it would smell better. I don't know if it's affordable to do that. I've heard of guys using diesel fuel. I've tried using diesel fuel. I've not been very happy with it. It's too oily for me. I don't feel like it breaks down the grease and the oil quick enough like gasoline does. So I've stuck to gasoline. You could also go out and you can buy a parts cleaner, and they do have non-solvent based cleaners you can do these days. I'm actually looking at maybe getting one of those in the future. Unfortunately, don't have one yet. You can buy solvent-based cleaners, but the problem with that is you've got to dispose of that. Even the gasoline that I have here, I have to dispose of that. I take that down for my local hazardous waste disposal, and I dispose of it that way. Definitely don't dump it outside. Don't dump it down a storm drain. So all I'm going to do is I have a brush here that's made for this. You can see I've got gloves on. I got my safety glasses on. The gloves that I'm wearing are not latex gloves. It's not something you buy at your local supermarket. They're actually, I think they're a heavy nitrile-based glove. So they're for use in petroleum products. I use them when I paint as well because acetone and lacquer thinner don't eat through them either. So all I do is I'm just taking and washing all of this on here. It's actually not that bad. It's fairly clean. As much of a bear as it was to get apart, it came apart pretty easily in the end. But all I do is just wash this off, get all of the grease off. And like I said, it's not really that bad, but that black goo that was in that transmission is everywhere in this. So I just want to make sure I'm getting that off. Normally I actually have, it's pretty funny, I have a black plastic bag that I took, large black plastic bag that I took. I cut the arms off of it, cut armholes in it. I cut a hole in the top for my head. And when I get into really nasty stuff, I'll actually wear that. I know it's kind of cheesy, but hey, it's affordable. It works. It keeps the bulk of the junk off of me. So, like I said all along, you improvise. You do what you can. You make what you have work the best that you can. So there, I've got that pretty much cleaned up now. What I've got is I've got some real old rags here that I'll use. Actually, I think they're old t-shirts of mine. And all I'm going to do now is I'll just stand this up and I'll just wipe this down to wipe the majority of what I've cleaned off of here off. So I'm not dripping all over the floor. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reverse this and put the other end in here. Let me wipe this end off. I do try to keep my floors as clean as I can. And now I'll just clean out this other end here. This is the rusty side. So hopefully it'll take off any remaining dirt that was in there because we still got to clean that up again. Make sure we can get down to some nice clean metal. So when it comes time to put our tires on, our tires will go on nice and easy. We'll be able to adjust the width on them easily. Just so nice when you get everything nice and cleaned up and you put it together and it just works like it's supposed to and you're not fighting years of goo and dirt and what else have you. And I'll just give it one more turn. We're about done here. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do the same thing with this. I will stand it up and we'll just take and wipe down the remaining gasoline that's on there. This is actually not the cleanest gasoline either that I've got. It's all kind of gooed up from cleaning transmission parts. So I'll need to change that out pretty soon. But there we go. It's fairly well degreased right now. What we'll do now is we'll continue washing the rest of the axle parts here. Once we get everything degreased, we'll move over to the workbench and we'll start cleaning these up. So let me get this out of here. Let me get the housing over here. Let me get the bearings over here. And we'll get those cleaned up as well, degreased, and we'll move on to getting it, the final cleaning part of it done. So now I've got my housing in here. And again, it's not too bad. It does have some goo on the inside from the transmission. We want to get that all cleaned out. The inner tube itself is going to be a little harder to clean up. We'll do that as well. But right now I'm just taking it real gently, trying not to make a mess. Trying not to splash stuff around the garage too much here if I can. Just going through and just letting the gas sit on this and just working it off with the brush after a little while, and it does break it down. It comes right off. It actually, like I said, it works real nice. I've yet to find anything that cleans better than this than a full automotive style parts washer, which, man, I wish I had. I just don't have $10,000 to spend on such a machine. But boy, I wish I did. This is a little more realistic. I'm sure it's probably more realistic for all you watching too. So it works. I've done it for years. It's easy. Okay, I'm just going to take and rotate this axle a little bit. So what I'll do when I'm done is I take this tub that I have this sitting in and I just dump it back into, I have an old coffee can. I don't even know if you can find cans of coffee anymore. Everything comes in a bag. I have an old coffee can, one of the large ones, going back to the good old days. And that's what I keep my parts washing gasoline in. And when I need to do anything of large size, I get this tub out and do like you're seeing right now. And this is how it's done. Now there is some pretty tough stuck grease on here. I actually have a little wire brush over here. I'm going to let that gasoline sit on that for a little bit and loosen it up. And we'll take that wire brush to it and see if we can get it to come off. I got the same thing here. Make sure when you do this you have good ventilation. Like I said, I have these gloves on. They're a nitrile-based glove. I have my safety glasses on. You do not want gasoline in your eyeball. Trust me, I've done it before. It's no fun. So take it from my experience. You don't want it to happen to you. You don't know where these parts washing brushes that I'm using, and they're specifically made for use in petroleum products like I'm using. I've gone out and bought cheap brushes, and about, I don't know, 10 seconds into doing this, all the bristles fall out because the gasoline just ate away at it. So make sure you get a brush that's made for cleaning parts and solvents. So I got this pretty clean now. Down here is going to be a little tough. It's tough to get in there. I'm just going to go in there with my brush the best I can. It's just full of years of old grease and oil that sat in there. I'm going to wash it out the best that I can. It's not really crucial. The axle just runs through the tube, so we don't have to get it perfect, super clean, but we'll get it as good as we can. I'm probably the extreme of anybody in the world, so if anybody's going to get it super clean, it's going to be me. What can I say? And I just keep rotating as I go. Rotate and clean. Get this stuff broken down the best that you can. So even though I'm using gasoline, it gets all the oil off, it still leaves a I guess like an oily residue on it. So I actually will take and I'll physically wash this with hot water. And usually I use Simple Green or 409. They're my two favorites for doing that. They usually can break down what's left of the residual gasoline on the outside. I'm just going to go over the outer surface, seeing that I have it sitting in this position. This is fairly clean. Before we take and wash this down, I will take and I will clean this outside probably with a wire cup wheel on my angle grinder. That'll get this pretty well prepped for paint. Get all the loose, scaly stuff off of it that's been on it. You can see it's pretty clean, not too bad. This is where some of that stuck on grease is right here. It's just been there for forever and it's not going to come off. So I have this little wire brush here. You can use a bigger one and it just scrapes that right off. I don't use a bigger wire brush because usually bigger means bigger mess. So I try to keep it small, keep my my splashing under control. But you can see it just takes it right off, and you just dip it in the gasoline as well. It helps a little bit more. It's hot in here today. I'm sweating, which is weird because it's pretty cold outside. Maybe it's wrestling all this heavy stuff. It is not light, I'll tell you that right now. If you have a bad back or anything, you might want to consider, if you're going to go into restoration, looking at restoring lawn and garden tractors. I do that as well, and we'll talk about some of those in upcoming episodes. And that's where I got started, really. I got started with those because they were smaller, they're lighter, probably more affordable in a lot of cases, and they're easier to store. They don't take up as much room. But unfortunately, like me, I got more space, and what did I do? I got into bigger stuff. So, well, it keeps me out of trouble. So we just keep degreasing. Like I said, this isn't really greasy out here. It's not too bad. We'll take and chase all of those holes in here. Those are tapped. We will chase those with a tap before all is said and done. That's all part of the cleaning process. The outside is pretty well degreased at this point. I'm pretty happy with it. The only thing I got is this little bit on the edge here. Some of that dried on, who knows how many years old grease that's been sitting there. Let's see if I got any more around here. I might have gotten it all. I think I got it all off. I did pretty good. I got a little bit back here. Let me take my wire brush in there. See if I can. Oh yeah, I had some stuck in there. The more of this you can catch now, the better off it is when you go to wash it, because as great as 409 and Simple Green are, they won't even cut through some of this stuff real easy. So whatever I can get off with the gasoline, I'll get off now. So I'll go back to the inside here. I'll keep working on that. Kind of tough to see in there. We'll keep degreasing as good as we can. Maybe what I'll do is flip this up on its end. There we go. Now we can actually get in where the bearing sits. Yeah, you can see my glove coming out of there. It's still pretty nasty in here. And even the gasoline breaks down over time. You start mixing it with more and more oil. It loses its effectiveness. So every now and then what I'll do when I feel like it's broken down too much is I will take and I'll take and empty this. I have a 5-gallon bucket that I take this to my disposal site at. I'll take and empty it into there. And by the time I empty it, it tends to be mostly oil. But I'll take and empty it in there. I'll clean out my container. And then I'll just take and fill up with some new gasoline. Now, I work on enough stuff here to where I end up with bad gas a lot of times. So what do? Instead of just disposing of that bad gas, I'll take and dump that bad gas into a special tank that I have that's labeled bad gas. And that's what I use to do my cleaning with. It's not real good for running in an engine, but great still for cleaning parts. So get what I can out of it. I know in a lot of places they take and dispose of bad gasoline because they can't do anything else with it. So here we are. I've got our casting out. It's all been degreased. I mean, it looks a lot better. As you can see, I got all the stuff that was stuck on the outside here off. I don't know if you can really see the inside there. Cleaned it up pretty good. There's still some black stuff in there that just is not going to come out so easily. I cleaned it up as good as I can. We'll get in there with some simple green and some good hot water. We'll scrub it out. We'll get it out. Get it cleaned out as best as we can. But I think right now it's pretty good for all intents and purposes. So this concludes getting this clean and degreased for now. The last thing I've got left is I got the bolts, the retaining cap, and the bearings that we got to cleaned up. Let me get those over here and we'll do that real quick. So I have my last few parts in here now. I have the bolts that held the retainers on that were inside. They were completely covered in the black goo. So I'm just going to dump them into the gasoline, the retainers. I just let them sit in there and soak for a little while. This is the big bolt that goes in the end that holds the bull gear on. I'll just put those right in the gas, let them soak for a little bit. That'll clean them up. That leaves me the bearing cap here. I'll just take and clean that up because it is, needless to say, all covered in grease and black goo as well. So I'll just use the gasoline that sits in the bottom of the tub here. This is probably my least favorite part of restoring tractors, is this part, the degreasing. While it is enlightening as you take grease off metal parts and they come back into show, I don't care for it. I don't like being all greasy and gooey and having to wear gloves and sweatshirts to keep yourself clean. But it's all part of it. I tell people all the time, they ask, what does it take to restore a tractor? Well, it's 90% cleaning. It really is. And this is what it is. You're looking at it. There's no brain surgery to it at all. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. It just takes time, patience, and a little bit of elbow grease. But it's rewarding when it's done. So I'm just getting the rest of the grease off this. You can see there's a bunch of red paint starting to surface here. I don't know if it's seen the sun for past how many years. I've got some stuff stuck in here pretty good. Let's see if I can get it out as best as I can. And keep cleaning up in here. There's a seal in here, of course. There's also a felt washer. I'm going to have to pull those out once I get this cleaned up. What I'll do is I'll clean this up and I'll take and pull that out and I'll clean it one more time just to clean out that recess where that seal sits and that felt washer sits. If the felt washer is in good shape, I probably won't replace it. I'll take and wash it out with gasoline and then take and wash it with simple green like everything else and get it ready to go. But, I mean, that's been pretty well degreased at this point. A lot of this gasoline that's in the bottom of this tub is starting to get saturated by the black goop. You can see there's some stuck on there, actually. I may have to take my wire brush to that. Let's see if I can clean that off with my wire brush because it is pretty stubborn stuff. Sometimes I even have like a little screwdriver here, or a putty knife so I can scrape with. Yeah, you can see it just snapping off. If I can get that off now, it makes the cleaning process easier. There's just stuff caked in there. This is maybe one of those things where you clean it up so much, you disassemble the rest of it, take it apart, and you go and you hit it with gasoline again and clean it one more time, and hopefully that gets the majority of it off. But I think for all intents and purposes right now, we're pretty well degreased. It still needs some cleaning. There's still some grease stuck in there. We'll come back, we'll clean that out. But for now, at least you can handle it without getting completely filthy. So let's get my hardware out of here. It's been sitting in there, it's soaked pretty good. It took a lot of that black goop off. I'll just take the rest of it off here with this brush and try not to splash all over myself in the garage like I'm really good at doing. Take and wipe that up. There we go. That's in pretty good shape now. It's pretty well cleaned up and degreased. What else? We have our bearing retainers are down in here. Let me fish them out of there. We'll just go over those with the brush because it does have more of the horrible black goo stuck on here. There, the retainers look like metal again. Yeah, there's one of our retainers, all nice and cleaned up. Get the other one out of here. It's in the bottom. So I'm reaching down in there, I'm pulling the bolts out too. They were sitting down in there. Make sure I get everything out of the bottom. The lock washers, of course, always fall off the bolts. You got to make sure you fish those out. There's our other retainer. There, I think we got that pretty well taken care of. Oops. There's our other retainer. And I think there should be a lock washer down in here. Let me see if I can fish around and feel it. No, maybe I got them all out. Nope, I got them all out. Everything is here. I will take and put them back on the bolts though, so I don't lose them. It's not so easy sometimes having these gloves on. You lose a lot of your dexterity, but it's better than having a gasoline flow into your skin. So we'll wipe those bolts up pretty good. Those will get cleaned as well. As you can see, those have been pretty well degreased. They're a lot better than they were. The last thing that we have is we have our bearings here. What I do with those is I just take the same thing, clean those up with the brush. I'll actually take and submerge them in the gas. I want to get all of that black gooey oil out of them that were in there. I'll take and clean out inside real well. And it's coming out. The back side, this is the one that goes at the end in the bearing cap end. You can see that it's closed on that side. The open side goes into where the oil is. This stays closed so it keeps dust and dirt out of there. This bearing actually does not run in the oil of the transmission. It actually has a grease fitting that sits above it, and it gets greased that way. But whoever had this definitely took very good care of it because the bearing's in good shape. I take and rotate the bearing down in the gasoline so it cleans that black goop out of the bearing as well. Like I said, this needs to be all perfectly clean before we put it back in. And you can see what a difference, huh? All cleaned up. And we got one more bearing here. This is the one that actually goes all the way down close to the transmission itself. This one ends up submerged in the oil, and thus it's covered in more of the black goop. So we'll just make sure we clean that out real good and break that goop down. We don't want that mixing with our new oil once we start putting this back together and get it reassembled. So I have a lot of people ask me a lot of time, what does it take to restore an old tractor? And I mean, that's a pretty wide open question. There's could be a lot of answers to that. And I jokingly tell them, well, you need a box of nitrile gloves. You need a sweatshirt and a pair of pants that you don't want anymore. Probably a pair of shoes that you don't want anymore. You probably need a brand new wire wheel for your bench grinder, and probably a wire cut brush for your angle grinder. Probably about 5 gallons of gasoline. They look at me kind of funny, but those are the things that are needed, believe it or not. What I have on here by the time we get done with this project, this sweatshirt and these pants that I'm wearing will be trash. Between the degreasing and the cleaning and then getting into painting, by the time I'm done, I'm not going to want to wear these clothes anymore. They'll be shot. They'll become rags to wipe up degreased parts. And what else do you need? You need a whole lot of time. We've been working on this now. I think we're up to what, like maybe 9, 10 or whatever. But look how far we've gotten. This is the reality of how long it takes. I'm delayed right now in getting the transmission put back together because of a parts issue. The cleaning takes a long time. I am not working on this during the week at night. Unfortunately, I have to work a full-time job. And when I get home at night from that, I'm pretty much dead. So I'm only working on this on the weekends right now. If I can get in some time during the week, I will. But, we're going on almost 2 months now, and we're just starting to get the transmission put back together. So it goes to show you how long this is going to take. Goes really fast taking it apart. Starts to slow down going to put things back together and get things reassembled. Once you start painting things, that'll slow it down even more. But that's the rewarding time. It tends not to matter so much then. You're more into it at that point, so you're a little more patient. But at this point, we've now got everything degreased. Now I need to finish cleaning it. I'll do that either with my angle grinder with a cut brush on it, or I have a wire wheel over here on my bench grinder. So I'll show you what I do with each of these pieces with those. So let's get going on that.